the fact is that nearly 90% of the ordinary people had no idea of the electoral bonds at all.
Okay.
Liquor policy is a serious issue. It
Mhm.
should be looked at. Prima facie, there is something strange about those policies. People are unhappy with BJP's incumbent representatives. And Mr. Modi's name cannot cover it all up any longer. This 400 Paar, I mean, all of us should know. 400, I mean, all these are, this is a psychological warfare. BJP has always been very good at it.
Lok Sabha 2024 is here, and many believe that this is India's most critical election since independence. Some say that democracy itself could be at stake. Will it be is baar 400 par for BJP, or are we in for some major surprises? Joining us for his expert insight is renowned political activist, sephologist, and convener of the Bharat Jodo Yatra, Mr. Yogendra Yadav. Thank you for joining us from Delhi. Welcome to
Thank
Buzz by
you.
the Bay.
I should clarify right in the beginning that I used to be a sephologist. I'm no more a sephologist. I'm just a
Okay.
political activist.
All right, fine. Thank you for the clarification. But I think, those are skills that stay with a person for a long time. You, of course, are on the ground. You have your ear to the ground. You are a political activist, extremely knowledgeable. You speak to people. You campaign. Very quickly, what are your observations now as phase one is starting? What are your
As you
observations
said
in
right
terms?
in the beginning, this is not perhaps, this is the most critical election in the history of independent India. And the reason is something that you hinted, that at stake is not simply the formation of another government. That's the usual bit after every 5 years. At stake is the very constitution of India. At stake is the existence and future of democracy in India. It has been made amply clear, not by one, but by a series of representatives from the BJP, that they intend to change the constitution. Now, needless to say, they will not formally announce that the constitution will be changed, or when they change it, they will not announce that it has been changed. It will be presented as an amendment to the constitution, which will virtually take away the soul of the constitution.
Okay.
And more than that, it is the very existence of democracy. Now, once again, it is not that we would have a Bangladesh or Pakistan style martial law ever. In the 21st century, the whole style of killing a democracy is that you hold continuous elections. Elections are held regularly, but there is no free and fair playing ground, no level playing ground. The result is predetermined.
Okay, so you're saying that, this could be the last free and fair election. Do you think this will be a free and fair election?
I must confess that I'm not entirely convinced. Just imagine a football match. An election is, after all, a match. Imagine a football match where 2 hours before the match, referees are changed. Not one, but two referees are changed. That's
On the
what
committee.
happened here. Two election commissions are changed. One election commissioner who was going to become the chief election commissioner resigns under mysterious circumstances. We don't know who said what to him. He suddenly resigned one day and disappeared. Two, imagine that in the course of that match, suddenly water supply and nutrition of the other team is switched off.
Hmm.
That's exactly what has happened. Congress party accounts have been frozen. Same is the case with CPI. Accounts, income tax cases, which are 30-year-old, are being opened. Ever heard of things of this kind? Number three, if that was not sufficient, you drag some players of the opposition team out of the ground. That's exactly what has happened. Hemant
Right.
Soren, Arvind Kejriwal, and so many smaller politicians have been taken away. So, is that free and fair? I must confess that I say this with enormous sense of shame because I used to be a kind of a self-appointed ambassador of Indian democracy all over the world. If you go and search YouTube,
Yes, of
you
course.
would find my lectures given in Canada, in US, all over the world. telling them that, look, Indian democracy is no less than, your kind of democracy. I really wish I didn't have to say things of this kind, but such is the reality. And on top of it, we cannot be sure of what the EVM might do. So there is a problem.
Okay, so EVM, of course, that's another issue. I did have spoken to someone from the State Election Commission of Maharashtra, and I did question them about the EVMs, and they did, well, they assured that their EVMs are tamper proof because it's not connected to any sort of, um, you know, internet as such. So it's very difficult to really hack and get into. But that's a whole separate issue. You're saying that this election possibly is not free and fair because we have many opposition leaders in jail. We have many people who have switched parties in the very last minute.
People changing parties is all right. They have right to do so. People changing party on the eve of elections is also a routine thing in India. But people changing parties when there's a gun on their head saying either change parties or ED comes or IT comes or this would happen. That is what we are speaking about. And as for EVM, this is a false claim. I say it with all sense of responsibility. It is false to say that our EVMs are not connected to anything external. And for a very simple reason, which even a non-technical person like you and me can understand. Remember, there is a VVPAT. Remember, VVPAT has a symbol. It prints the name of the candidate. If it is not connected to any external device, how does VVPAT know what is the name of the candidate? How does VVPAT know the symbol of the candidate? I mean, this is humbug. Obviously, there is a symbol loading software. And the problem is that symbol loading software is not made public. Its protocols are not made public. And when symbol loading takes place, the opposition is not there. They are not allowed to examine the voting machines after the symbol has been loaded. So there is a serious issue about free and fairness of the election that we are watching. And I'm not even talking about the state of Indian media, the very shameful manner in which the mainstream media has gone about being the ambassador of the ruling party. I'm not even talking about the unequal money power that is being exercised on the ground. So all these are simple facts. Let's not run away from simple facts.
Coming to, the arrest, you were a part of ARP, right? You had your own fallouts with the party. What is your belief on this whole liquor policy scam and this whole arrest of Mr. Kejriwal? What is your personal opinion?
Look, unfortunately, people tend to take very easy opinions.
Okay.
Liquor policy is a serious issue. It
Mhm.
should be looked at. Prima facie, there is something strange about those policies. And yes, they should be investigated. Yes, it should be taken to court. And yes, if they are found guilty, they must be punished.
Right.
However, from that, it does not follow that you arrest Arvind Kejriwal in the middle of elections. It,
Absolutely.
please remember, what is the evidence against him on which he is being arrested? The evidence is an oral testimony given by someone who did not mention his name in the first 6 statements. In the seventh statement, he gives his name. And remember, that seventh statement is preceded by an electoral bond bought by that person for the BJP and is followed by another electoral bond of 50 crore rupees, after which he gets a reprieve. Now,
Right.
why should I not commonsensically assume that the
Yeah.
police told him कि केजरीवाल का नाम ले लो तो छोड़ देंगे, नहीं तो नहीं छोड़ेंगे, साथ में थोड़ा दक्षिणा भी लगेगी? That's exactly what seems to have happened. This is common sense. I also, you want to investigate Arvind Kejriwal? Please do so. Why do you need to arrest? Arrest happens only when you fear that someone would run away or tamper with evidence. These are the only two reasons for arrest. Why do that? And if you want to arrest, why arrest now? Wait for 2 months. You've already waited 2 years. Heavens won't fall. Wait another 2 months. And if you are so law abiding, and if the ED says, well, we arrest the day we get some information, then I'm afraid then you should arrest half of Mr. Modi's cabinet as well, because the evidence that has come from electoral bonds
Yes.
is so damning. It's 100 times more damning than this excise scam. Why
Yeah.
not arrest them as well?
No, I mean, absolutely. You brought up many important points. One is that bail is a rule. Arrest,
Yeah.
putting in jail is the exception. But somehow we're not following that. We're not following that in many instances in India currently, right? That this bail should be the rule. First of all, there's only a verbal statement, as you mentioned. But you did say that the liquor policy, of course, should be examined. However, the timing of the arrest is suspicious. But it is
Yes,
the
so I want to
government.
clarify that I'm not giving a clean check to Mr. Kejriwal or whatever. No, certainly not. But arrest being used as an instrument of political vendetta and worse, to
Yeah.
prevent your opposition from taking part in an election which you claim is free and fair. I mean, this is a joke. You have to oppose it.
Yes, you're saying it's a joke, and people aren't silly, of course, in India. I mean, with everything that's going on, with the arrest, with the electoral bonds issue, with people sort of switching parties, with suddenly the ED, ED raids against certain people and not against certain people, and certain charge sheets just disappearing. I mean, the public is also not stupid, right, in India. So, I mean, do you think like people are waking up to this? What's your sense from being on the ground?
I traveled for 4 or 5 days recently. Just and when I travel, do not speak to any informed person. I don't speak to any journalist or politician. I just speak to very, very ordinary people at their home, village, and so on. Uh, those who knew about it were scandalized, were very angry, and I heard the washing machine being used. I heard Tanashahi being used in villages. Uh, However, the fact is that nearly 90% of the ordinary people had no idea of the electoral bonds at all.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that's the problem. So people are not fools, but they are not informed. If you were very carefully watching some of these mainstream channels, big channels, all that you would get to know is that the Supreme Court had passed a judgment, that the
Yeah.
Supreme Court had ordered SBI to release a data, that SBI was not quite willing to do so, and finally was forced to do so. Full stop. What
Right.
was the data? What came out of the data? What is the link between electoral bonds and policies and contracts? Such a big scandal is not known to the people of India. I mean, such is the sorry state of the Indian media today.
That is very astounding. But it's not only the BJP who's implicated in this, right? There are other parties too who have received funds.
Most of these parties are implicated, and I absolutely see no reason why each of these transactions should not be investigated. Giving, buying electoral bond was not a crime, is not a crime. Giving chanda to a political party has never been a crime. In fact, it should be encouraged. The problem is if I buy the electoral bonds today and 6 weeks from now, I get a huge contract by sidelining everyone else. Quid pro quo is the problem.
Of course.
Donation
Quid
by
pro quo.
itself is not a problem. And if that
No.
is the case with Congress, if that is the case with TMC, with DMK, BJD, everyone should be investigated.
You campaign, right? You will be involved in campaigning. Have you already done a lot of campaigning? Now, I just wanted to know, like, how do you go about it? You are a crusader for democracy, for free and fair elections. I mean, what does your campaign consist of?
We have formed a platform called the Bharat Jodo Abhiyan.
That
We
I
are
know.
not a
Yes.
political party. We don't contest elections. But what we've done is that we've gone around the country and asked movements, groups, civil society groups, everyone. We asked them, are you or are you not worried about democracy in this country? And if you are, and we understand you are not a political party, you don't want to contest election, but should we simply watch this happening to the country? We cannot be mute spectator. We've
Right.
come together and we've decided to intervene in three different ways. One, we are trying to bring together various forces, various social groups, trade unions, farmers movements. We are coordinating between them. Number
Yeah.
two, we are communicating. In communication, we counter the lies of the BJP every day. The
Okay.
third thing that we do is constituency level groundwork. We form teams. We've chosen about 120 marginal constituencies in the country. Marginal are those which can go either way. In our assessment
Right.
could be right or
Okay.
wrong. In our
Like a
assessment,
swing
these are the marginal
constitution.
seats.
Yeah.
And we have formed teams. Our teams are doing work from improving the quality of electoral rolls to going and talking to influencers to training party workers on what to do on the election day.
No, I mean your organization is definitely playing a very important role, and the tasks that you're taking are very crucial. Which comes to, and since you are on the ground, you have your ear to the ground. Which comes to the main question: is it going to be is bar char so par as claimed by the ruling party?
What I notice is the following. Number one, I notice there's enormous disquiet in the country, specifically on the issues of unemployment,
Yes.
on the issue of inflation, price rise, on corruption. People are unhappy with BJP's incumbent representatives. And Mr. Modi's name cannot cover it all up any longer. In
Okay.
2014, 19, all you had to say was Modi, and that's the end of conversation. This 400 par, I mean, all of us should know. 400, I mean, all these are, this is a psychological warfare. BJP has always been very good at it. And the name of the game is to force your opponent to give a walkover before the match begins. The media reports 400 par as if it's a Akashwani coming from the, from the air. When they say 400, I hear 420. That's the problem.
Okay, well, I shouldn't have asked this question. I'm feeding into this whole psychological warfare by asking it. What are the issues that you think the youth will vote on? We mentioned Berozgari, and what do you think are the issues? Will it be emotive issues? Will it be economic issues?
Basically, the contest is this. BJP, after 10 years of ruling, would like this country not to vote on its record. Because if the country votes on the record of the BJP, they may not have very much to show.
Oh,
So, having ruled the country for 10 years, BJP wants this country to vote on Mandir. They want this country to vote on CA. They want this country to vote on UCC. The whole point is to take you to the Hindu-Muslim issue. I mean, the brazen manner in which the communal card has been played in this country, that clearly points to the fact. So, in a sense, this electoral contest is hinges on this issue. Will it be about the economy? If it is about economy, BJP is on a very slippery wicket.
but do you feel that the opposition is giving some sort of will give any sort of fight at all this time? I mean, the India alliance. I mean, there's been confusion. There's been infighting within the India alliance. I know you're a part of Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra, but generally, where do you think the opposition stands? Do you see certain areas where you see really close fights?
Of course, there are many places where it's bound to be a close fight. Compared to 2019, there are so many states where BJP is bound to do worse than what it did in 2019. Now, in Rajasthan, BJP has virtually 25 out of 25 seats. If you traveled with me to Churu, Sikar, Jhunjhunu, Bharatpur, Alwar, Dausa, you would see there's no way they can repeat that performance. I'm not saying BJP would be wiped out. All
Mhm.
I'm saying is there's no way BJP can completely sweep the state the way it did.
Okay.
Come to Haryana. Haryana farmers movement, enormous anger. Ask anyone, they wouldn't say that BJP can sweep. I believe you are in Maharashtra right now.
Yes.
In Maharashtra, BJP and allies had 41 out of 48 seats now. Find me one analyst of Maharashtra who would say BJP can get 40 seats this time. BJP and allies can get 40 seats. In Bihar, BJP and allies had 39 out of 40 seats.
Hmm.
Find me one person, find me one BJP person who would say that we are going to get 39 out of 40. Clearly, they are going down. Same in Karnataka. Now, my question is, if BJP is losing seats in these many states, where would it recover from? Because it has reached a saturation point. In Tamil Nadu, BJP may increase its vote. From media reports, it seemed that it might. But
Yeah.
has it reached a point where it can pick seats? In
Hmm.
Kerala, the same situation. In Andhra, the same situation.
Right.
So, therefore, my simple question is, let alone Chaar so far, can the BJP even touch 300, which
Hmm.
is what it did last time?
Yes.
That's a question. I'm not answering the question. I'm simply asking a question.
Well, they are, I mean, so you're questioning whether it will even touch 300. I think last time the tally was 303
That's
independently
right.
as a party.
That's right.
Right. So I was reading a CSDS, which you were a fellow of CSDS some time ago, right? So I was reading a recent study of theirs, and, where they were assessing the direction of public mood at the present juncture. And to quote, it says that we show that voters' assessment of the government's performance combined with the impact of the leadership factor may help the BJP weather the storm that economic distress may cause. So they're saying, the people's perception may sort of. You had earlier made a comment that you don't think Modi ji's name will carry that magic that it carried in 2009. It won't be able to gloss over all the sort of economic stress that we're facing.
Number one, I take CSDS poll very seriously, and not only because I used to be in CSDS 10, 12 years ago, but because it happens to be currently and sadly the only opinion poll about which you can be certain that the survey was actually done on the ground.
Hmm.
It's done face to face, not on telephone, and that they are reporting what they got in the survey. And the data is not being manufactured on the table. Basically, what they are saying is yes, economy is very bad. Yes, people are very distressed, unemployment, inflation, all other things, people's own livelihood issues, things are very bad. But they seem to be suggesting that Mr. Modi's popularity and other issues like Hindutva being brought in can counterbalance.
Okay.
Now, that's one view. It's a respectable view. Take it seriously. This has still happened a few weeks before the election is to begin. Closer to election, and the survey itself talks about a significant proportion of people who have not made up their mind. Closer to election, which one of the, should people get to know about electoral bonds and the quid pro quo? Will they take the same view about Mr. Modi as they did earlier? That's a question because election time is also a time when people get a lot of fresh political information.
Okay, absolutely. Now, thank you for those inputs. Now, coming to, the Bharat Jodo Yatra, the impact of that, the view that people have in this country of dynastic politics. I mean, even when Modi ji campaigns, he talks about family politics destroying Tamil Nadu. Basically, they pick on the dynastic element of politics. So, would you say that there's a lack of inner party democracy in many other opposition parties, and that goes against them?
I would certainly be one, have always been opposed to any non democratic element in any party. But just think about one thing. How much power do you think Mr. Nadda has in running the BJP affairs? Half the people in this country would not even know that there's someone called Mr. Nadda who has something to do with the BJP party. He happens to be the president of the party. Who runs the party? Is there inner democracy in the BJP? Ask any BJP person, switch off your camera, ask them about inner party democracy. He wouldn't stop laughing or crying for 10 minutes after that. So, yes, lack of inner party democracy is unfortunately a reality that cuts across many parties. About dynasty, please check BJP's candidates. I'm sitting in a place in Delhi, East Delhi, where BJP's new candidate is one Mr. Malhotra. Who is Mr. Malhotra? How has he come to politics? Because he happens to be the son of Mr. Vijay Kumar Malhotra, who was the BJP leader. Dynasty is something that cuts across again all parties. The only place where it is not visible in the case of BJP is that it hasn't yet reached the top. But since you are in Mumbai, who is Mr. Piyush Goyal? How has he come to politics? What merit did he display in order to enter politics? Well, did Dynasty have a role in that? Everyone knows the answer. We have closed the most legitimate route, namely student politics,
Okay.
youth politics, people coming to to democratic politics as a result of movements, protests.
Okay. Well, you're right. Nepotism does cut across parties. There's nepotism in politics in every party. But I suppose what people really see Congress as the manifestation of dynasty in the Congress, is strongest. I mean, that's what people seem to
It's
see.
more visible because you can see it at the top in the case of Congress Party, in the case of Samajwadi Party, in the case of RJD. It has reached rung one. In BJP, it has by now reached rung two.
Coming to the Congress, in the past you have been a critic of the Congress, and some people say that whereas in the past you called it an obstacle to building a credible opposition, now you are supporting Rahul Gandhi and you participate in the Bharat Jodo Yatra. So I mean, why did you take this stance now? Why did you
Uh,
change
while
your stance?
while people remember, rightly so, that I was a critic of the Congress Party. In fact, all my life, much of my political activism has been directed against those in power. And because Congress was in power, much of that has been directed against the Congress Party. My entry into public life in 1977 as a child was when the Congress lost the election and I saw democracy with my own eyes. You couldn't be growing up in India in 1980s and not be protesting against Congress party. So of course
Right.
I've been. So this is not an allegation. This is a 100% fact. Yes, I've been a critic. Yes, after 2019 election, I actually said, "Isse acha to mar jao." They should. And but why? What people don't remember is why did I say this? I said 2019 is a critical election. BJP is going to come to power and they would fiddle with this country's basic structures. And it is Congress's principal responsibility to prevent the BJP from coming to power. And the manner in which Congress handed over that election almost on a platter, I felt that there was this, they almost gave a walkover. That's when I said, Congress must die. If this is what you are doing, then you might as well disappear. When Congress takes to street and says we will take on the BJP, when Congress says Mohabbat ki dukan, we don't want nafrat in this country, when Congress says they want nyay, well,
Hmm.
it's music to my ears. That's exactly what I've been waiting to hear. When they do this, I will support it.
Right. So you're saying that now the stance that they're taking is resonates with you and it's fine. You are okay to
It
sort of.
resonates. The Congress has taken a principled position, and I must also confess that choices for people like me have reduced further and further because it is such a desperate situation right now. It's not just Congress party. In this country, the opposition needs to be strengthened because democracy needs to be saved.
Okay, and you have made statements. I've heard previous interviews. You have said that at that moment, this is a moment in history where we cannot take a partisan, self interested view. The bigger picture has to prevail first, right? But isn't that quite idealistic? Because even in the India Alliance, people are going to take a self interested view, right? I mean, how many people really agree with this view of yours that, let's first save democracy? It doesn't matter like whether I get a seat in this constituency or so and so gets a seat in that constituency. I mean, do you think the majority of people within the India Alliance would agree with your point of view?
A majority of leaders may not, majority of people of this country do. Leaders are people who have to lead a certain group. They have their own internal compulsions. Many of them have also a somewhat narrow self-interest of political parties. But convincing them is not my job, fortunately, thankfully. Convincing the people of this country is my job, is to say, okay, they are doing what they are doing. At the moment, the most important thing is to uh, get this message across to the people that we need to look beyond our immediate narrow interests. And we need to think of, just as we did in 1977.
So yes, at the time of the emergency, the whole opposition united, right, to fight the emergency, to fight Mrs. Gandhi. So you're likening that situation to right now. Last couple of things. The BJP, where do you think they have delivered? Would you say in areas like infrastructure they have delivered? Because I'll tell you, sitting in Mumbai, now we have a new coastal road. We have what you call the Trans Harbour Sea Link. Projects that were stalled at the time of the opposition, that were promised to Mumbaikars and to Maharashtrians but were stalled. Now suddenly these have all fructified and it does make life easier. So, I mean, wouldn't you say that there are some, positive aspects that the things have happened?
Look, in the last 75 years, there has never been a government which has not delivered anything at all. Every government brings in something, some positive, some improvements upon the last government has done. And as you rightly said, infrastructure is a big word, but roads, I would agree. I see better quality roads throughout the country. There is a not so small question of costs, and especially about the tolls, because in the last instance, it's not being done from the government's own funds. You and I are paying for that through tolls. And tolls are a bit of a scam all over the country. But that apart, the fact that roads have been built is definitely a positive thing. There are, and I personally actually do like some parts of the education policy of this government,
Okay.
that they have brought in multilingual education, at least as an idea. I'm
Mhm.
quite in favor of that. I think that should have happened earlier. I mean, that was always on paper, but was never implemented. If this government implements it, I would certainly be for it.
Okay, great. Lastly, what is your wish list for India for 2024?
Democracy. Everything else can follow. If we have democracy, we would be able to resolve all other issues. On some policy things, we may fail. We'll punish the rulers, throw them out. We'll correct all these things. Democracy is a self correcting mechanism. And today, that mechanism is under threat. That's my problem. You know, if you have a small issue, you go to a thanedar, to the local police station, or to local officer. You have a bigger issue, you go to the minister. Big, even big, you go to the parliament or legislatures, or you go to the Supreme Court. When all of them become part of the problem in some way, what do you do? That is the big question that we face today. So for me, saving the mechanism called democracy is utmost. I don't want to look like Russia or Hungary or Turkey. I come from a country which has taught democracy to so many other countries. So for me, that's the uppermost thing. That is the single item on my wish list today.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Yadav. Thank you. It was a real pleasure talking to you and happy campaigning. And we will catch up with you another time, definitely, to take this
Thank you.
forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.